Yeah, hey. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. It's Thursday, the 1st of May, 11:13 p.m. my time. I'm Bruce McDonald, and this is the Talamanca Review. I don't have anything planned tonight. I don't even know what I'm going to talk about. I don't have a clue. I have a few loose ideas. I was considering taking a night off, but sometimes my best podcasts come out on evenings that I don't feel like podcasting. And I learned some time ago that the full expression of who I am is important to the authenticity of the Talamanca Review. Now, let's be honest here. I cover some things on this podcast that are unbelievably dark. Like beyond most of the horror books we have, most of the dark sci-fi. In many ways, it's worse than the worst thing you could imagine. And yet I'm presenting it as reality. And every once in a while, I guess I become aware of that. And I become aware of the weight of that. Not all the time, but every once in a while. And I feel a need to say something about this and to ameliorate some of the darkness without redacting anything, without pulling back on what is the truth. I'm going to look up ameliorate because that's just the kind of geek I am. Ameliorate definition. Make something bad or unsatisfactory better. Oh man. So it just amazes me how I can remember words. Like I can't remember the last time I used the word ameliorate, but that is exactly the word I was looking for. I love this thing we call language. That's why I get so pissed off when they malign it. And I think they're doing it deliberately because language is reality, and a diminished language is a diminished reality. And a language without an etymology, a history, is a language with no body, no spirit. And that's intentional. You can't tell me otherwise. Now, I guess the question I'm asking aloud is, what is the point in me telling you these things? And I don't do it in a dark or conspiratorial way, or even what I would call a deliberately negative way. You know, like a lot of conspiracy or negative based podcasts do. You know, I don't pull my punches. I don't tell you the world is something other than what it is. But there's something more in the Talamanca Review. And I think that it has to do with converting this darkness into light, or putting light into this darkness and pushing it back. You see, that's the only way we're going to beat it. Okay? And this is the process of life. The process of life is the alchemical, spiritual alchemy by which darkness is converted to light, or darkness becomes illuminated. And that's how we grow. I know, I mean, you want to believe that life is something other than what it is. Everybody does. Everybody's got an idea about what life is. I used to have ideas about life, what life is. And then I figured out what it really is, or I was told what it really is, or I was shown what it really is, or I realized what it really is. Take any one of those three perspectives. I mean, they're all fundamentally accurate. And it's a spiritual process. Okay? Everything going on here is a spiritual process. We are not beset by anybody. We're not being taken advantage of. There are no dark Gnostic narratives that are true. I mean, they're true and they're not true. Okay? So I think one of the more spooky ones we all engaged in together was the narrative that Ariel gave us, the captured extraterrestrial at wherever that was in Area 51. Not Area 51, but wherever that first UFO crash was in 1947. What the hell? Why can't I remember that? What's the big UFO? Roswell. Yeah, Roswell, New Mexico. Okay. Very interesting how these things love deserts, right? It's always a desert for some reason. And Ariel told us that like this is a kind of part of the universe that a lot of the benign races were unaware of, at least this outskirt part of the Milky Way galaxy in which we live. You know, Earth is a kind of galactic backwater. And according to Ariel, it was still in the clutches of what she referred to as the old empire. I know it sounds like Star Wars. I know you can't make this shit up, but where do you think they get this stuff from? Okay, this is why we refer to Hollywood and even the publishing industry in some measure as an extension of the military-industrial complex, the military-industrial entertainment complex. Okay, so we're part of the territory of the old empire. Now, I don't believe there's anything that is really unjust or inequitable about existence. For every extreme negative, there has to be an extreme positive, because the one thing I can tell you absolutely is this place completely balances itself out. Okay? It can only come out balanced every time. All right? So what that means is the scales are always level. They're never tipped. The scales here are always level. Okay? Which is a form or an expression of perfect justice. So if that's true, what's going on here that's good or beneficial that we might not recognize as good or beneficial? Well, you can grow quite a bit in an incarnation on this planet. You can... The negativity is a form of fertilizer for awareness, for the soul. Okay? That's what negativity is. It doesn't exist for no reason. Hell exists in our astral region for a reason. It's where you go when you couldn't learn and you couldn't be stopped when you were alive. You go to the hell regions. And then they show you what you did to other people. And it's like, how do you like it? And it's more forcefully applied in hell. But there's a reason for it. It means that you're still in the game, that you haven't been abandoned, that something out there thinks that you are salvageable, that you can be redeemed. That is a very interesting word and worthy of a lookup, okay? So let's look up that. Redeem, definition. Compensate for the faults or bad aspects of something. A disappointing debate redeemed only by an outstanding speech. Second definition. Gain or regain possession of something in exchange for payment. His best suit has been redeemed from the pawnbrokers. Wow. Okay. So I don't know why that word is littered through our spiritual literature. We have to redeem ourselves. I suppose compensate for the faults or bad aspects, but I don't like that. Because it right from the beginning, and this is the Abrahamic trick, by the way. Okay, this is the whole game of the rabbis, the priests, and the imams, right from the get-go. You're a piece of shit, but if you do what we tell you, you cannot be a piece of shit. I mean, how do you start and live a life from such a negative construction, such a negative mental construction? Okay? You have to be redeemed. Your soul has to be redeemed. Everything about the language of the Abrahamic system is so degrading, it's so derogatory, it's so debasing. Okay? You can see the fingerprints of that which hates us all over the theology. Okay? That which hates us. Do you understand? And that which hates us is that which does the children in it, the rituals. Okay? I would say that RFK Jr. is going on a bit of a tear, talking about, he was saying that there are, in fact, something like 348,000 missing children from the Border Patrol records, crossing the border, entering into America, and can no longer be accounted for. Ergo, nobody knows where they are. You want to know why? I'll bet you do. It's because they can't do enough magic right now, because the magic isn't working the way it used to. It's because they're kind of fucked. Because all of their systems are based on a certain frequency that is, or has been, consistent down here for millennia. And something now is changing, and the frequency is changing. You understand? Let me give you an example. If you've baked a chocolate cake 100 times, okay, and you've done it in the same oven every time, and you have prepared the materials for the cake in the same prep area the same time for 100 times. Now, if something happened with that oven, let's say, and its element lost some of its force, and you didn't know this per se, you had no way to measure this, but what you thought was 375 degrees Fahrenheit in the oven had really been reduced to 325 degrees. But you didn't know that. Every single time after that 100th time that you went to make this same chocolate cake, it would not turn out the same because the oven is not at the same temperature. And you don't know that because the dial says it's at 375, but the internal element or the internal gas system on the stove is not actually heating it to 375. It's only heating it to 325 because there's a fault in the system. That's what is going on in the magical realm now. There's something going on in the system that they can't figure out. And all of these formulas and rituals that have worked for centuries and millennia are no longer working. Okay? And that, by the way, is why they have to move from magic to physical force. This is why they're bringing in the entire control structure is descending from 4D down into 3D. Do you understand? This is why we're suddenly looking at this Orwellian world. It's not that this is anything new. We've always been living in an Orwellian world. It was just something that we couldn't see at the time because it was completely occulted in a system that operated outside of our perception and our frequency and our apprehension. And the way life was going, we didn't really care. I mean, if there's some great evil going on in the world, but you still got your house, you still got your fishing boat, you still got your summer house, what we call a cottage in Canada, you still have everything, well, that's not your problem. You don't care. Well, the world's going to shit. What do I care? I'm going fishing on Saturday. No more fishing. There's no more fishing in 15-minute cities, folks. There's no way you can go fishing in a 15-minute city. So something fundamental has changed. I don't know what it is. I don't need to know. That's another thing about me. I don't need to know everything. I just need to have the general concept given to me, and it has to be given to me spiritually, which means it's delivered to me in a way where I know it to be true, but I don't need all the details. I don't need the math. I don't need the psychic reading. I don't need the astrology. I don't need the gematria. I don't need the Akashic records. But I do need to know. But the process I have developed for knowing things is so irrational it doesn't make sense to anybody else. And yet, it's kind of flawless. You know, it's been working for me for decades, at least 2 decades, which is how I ended up where I am now, which I guarantee you by the end of 2025, every single one of you listening to me will wish you were here. With your own food supply, with your own water, with no property tax, no mortgage, no rent. You will wish you were here. So how did I end up here? Am I just lucky? I acted on faith, but qualified faith. Okay? I've developed a process for figuring things out, but I don't figure them out at the level of detail. Spirit is never going to tell me, Bruce, buy this particular crypto coin. You're going to need $5 million, Bruce, and you need to buy XRP, and here's why. No, that's not the way Spirit works. That's the way certain psychic faculties and certain entity communications might work, but it's not how the Spirit of the Creator works. The Spirit of the Creator just lets you know, look, this system is going to collapse. You need to get to a place that is of a different system. And we recommend that you go to a place that is of the natural system. That's what I was told. Go back to a natural system. Okay? And then when I got here, I started to figure things out even more and more and more. So where do you want to be at this time? As everything is going to collapse. And I think 2025 is going to be the year that it happens. Okay? I think that at least it's going to get a good start this year. I know, why make a prediction if I don't believe in astrology, or it's an analysis, not a prediction. That's the difference, okay? It's an analysis, not a prediction. And the analysis is of the money, of human behavior, of human expectation when measured against what is possible in the system they're creating, how human beings are going to respond to that, how the government's going to respond to the human response. Okay? This system they have set up is so brilliant, I'll tell you. I mean, if I were an evil genius, I don't think I could outdo them. Okay? I don't. And the reason their system is so flawless is that they're going to be able to get a lot of things done which are extremely negative, and they're not really going to have any spiritual liability for it, because they're going to create a situation where we do it to ourselves. Okay? And most of this is going to take place in large cities. Okay? Small towns, not so much, maybe a little bit. But large cities are going to be pure chaos. Okay? I had a long chat, about an hour today, with a very knowledgeable friend. Haven't spoken to him in a couple years. Some of you may know this gentleman. His name is David Dubine, and he talks a lot about the sun and how the sun is changing. And he has a podcast called Agenda 2030, I think it's called. Very smart guy. Like myself, he's gone into a rural area. He's still in the United States, but a very rural area, and he does a lot of food growing and a lot of preparation for what's coming. And we talked for an hour today. And we both agree that 2025 is the kickoff year. It makes complete sense. 2025 is when the chaos has to come about. It's all in place now. I'm pretty sure that Trump aided in the election of Carney, so I don't know what's going on with Trump anymore. All I know is there's a class of people running a program. They have a program to finish, and that program is largely about depopulation. Okay? Now, they're starting with the old people, right? So, which kind of sucks, right? Because all those people put all that money into their Social Security. They paid for, if they worked from 20 to 60, they paid Social Security for 40 years. They're not going to see it. They're not going to see what they put into it. You know? I mean, maybe it's still a better life than going off on living on your own. Like I have no right to assume that everybody agrees with me. Okay? There are many people who may look at the same set of circumstance I look at and they say, well, if the government's going to let me live to 72 years and I get to live in New York and I get to work in an office and I get to have this kind of life, the only thing is it ends at 72, which might not be a natural ending. I may have gone another 16 years to 88, okay? Or another 26 years to 98. Who knows? You know? So do I really want to live those last 20 years of my life in which I don't have good health, I don't have good mobility or anything like that? Or am I good to go when I'm 72? Believe it or not, there's a lot of people who would not have a problem with the 72. Okay? For me, it doesn't matter how long I live. What matters is that I leave when my time is up, when the natural allotment of this life is up. Okay? That's the only thing that matters to me. Nothing else really matters. And I want to live a natural life. And I certainly don't want to punk out. I don't want any euthanasia or anything like that. You know, I will go through whatever I have to go through when I'm in this body. And I will assume that all of it is for my spiritual benefit, even if I don't understand it. That's my faith. Okay? I would never, ever opt for euthanasia. Okay? And my best friend I spoke about on this show a number of times, Alan, the comedian, when he was coming to the end, they wanted to put him on a drip, like some kind of opium drip, you know, for the pain, where they just morphine or something, right? Where it's constantly going into your body to cope with the pain. And he said no, and he just took a little like a pill once or twice a day, and he was in a hospice, and they couldn't believe it. But they respected him. The doctor and the nurses respected him. And his rationale was he wanted to be as cognizant as possible when he passed. And I remember, wow, I had so much respect for that. It just kind of blew me away, you know. Let me get a coffee here. I'm not going to break, though. So I just want to live a natural life. I want to live to the natural end of my life. And for me, I've always found the greatest commodity in life to be time. Okay? Now, people say to me, if you can't make a living at something, you shouldn't do it. I don't agree with that. I don't agree with that at all. I think there are times things need to be done whether you can make a living at them or not. I think the devil in us needed to be written. I think the light of darkness needed to be written. Somebody had to do it. Somebody had to explain what's going on down here. In a simple story, the way human beings have always received information. Not in some pseudo-intellectual 2-hour podcast where you pretend to be a historian because you read some old manuscripts you found on PDF on the Internet Archive. There's just certain things that need to be done. And that, you know, they don't necessarily make a lot of money. But they need to be done. I am very proud of every phase of my life, every decade, my 20s, my 30s, my 40s, my 50s, every decade. I've done something unique. In my teens, I moved out and became independent at 16. So my teens were productive. In my 20s, I started taking writing seriously and I started working on my first manuscript. I went to the Far East when I was 26, stayed there till I was 28, learned another language, Mandarin, taught English, studied Taoism, Buddhism, Kung Fu. I learned a tremendous amount. In my 30s, I had my son. In my 40s, I published and started taking writing much more seriously. And in my 50s, I started this journey up here on the mountain, which has been going on since I was about 50 now, and I turn 59 in July. And it's been a wonderful, wonderful thing up here, you know? And I was able to get 4 books written up here, which I never would have imagined writing in Canada. Never in my wildest dreams would I ever have thought I would write a UFO book like Stardust Ranch. Or a book about galactic history. Or a book about the life of a Navy SEAL and CIA contractor who's lucidly psychic and initiated into various black magic paths, and then decided to tell the world his story. I never thought I would write The Devil in Us. I never thought I would have a relationship with my father post-mortem after he died. A life never ceases to surprise me. It never gets boring for me. And that is an amazing thing. And if you can live a life in which nothing gets boring for you, then you're doing okay. You know, the more I think about it, I'm not even angry at the people running the show down here. I've said this before. I'm not really angry at them. Not angry at Mark Carney. I'm not angry at Macron. I'm not angry at Trudeau. You know? I guess what bothers me the most is that they don't just tell us the truth. Okay? I mean, maybe human beings just aren't mature enough to hear the truth. I don't know. Okay? Whatever happens with this species, you're going to continue to incarnate into it, the human species. So if this leap forward we're going through now is a benefit for the whole human genome, you're going to be incarnating into that benefit. So if you have to sacrifice your life in this lifetime to be part of a better human future, would you do it? If you were conscious of it and you knew it to be true, would you do it? I probably would. If I saw in a vision the future of the human race in 500 years, based on sacrifices made by one generation of human beings in the early to mid 21st century, and the leap forward was unbelievable, not just technologically, but spiritually as well. And I said, well, 7 billion people have to die in ignorance and stupidity like dumb animals in this generation of humans for this future to be possible. Will you give up your life, Bruce? Yeah, I would. No problem. I would do it in the blink of an eye, actually. I don't think I'd have any problem doing that at all. Okay? But I don't know for a fact that that's what's going on here. I think it's more like the Saturn 2.0 thing. But here's what I do know. Everything coming into existence here is in a growth system. Everything from the minerals, the insects, the fish, the mammals, the birds, butterflies, human beings, dogs, everything is part of the same manifestation of life that is all growing toward the same creator. Everything is being magnetically pulled toward the creator. Okay? Now I'm going to tell you some stuff that you might not like to hear. But this is what I call balancing out the negativity, the darkness of the Talamanca reveal. The creator is agnostic or indifferent to what happens to you in an individual life. If it were any other way, he certainly wouldn't have allowed Christ to be tortured and crucified, if that actually happened. It may have, I don't know. And I don't mean to disrespect the Christ, okay? As I've said, I think the Gospels are magnificent doctrine, if you live them. If you actually live them. I don't think I've ever met anybody who's actually living them, okay? I'm probably more closely living the Gospels than most people. Although my fucking brother-in-law is taxing it right now, I'll tell you right now, okay? So, the Creator is agnostic or indifferent to what happens in a lifetime. The Creator could not give a bigger shit whether we lived free in a forest like a tribal people or whether we were slaves in somebody else's society. The Creator could not give a bigger shit. Okay? The Creator is not personal in that way. All that matters is the growth mandate being met? Is there utility and purpose in this incarnation, the human being on this planet, in this solar system, in this galaxy, in this universe? Is there utility and purpose to that creation? Or should we wipe it out and just have the spirit forms of that people incarnate into another race on another planet? Okay? The Creator could not give a bigger shit what the state of your life is. Could not care, doesn't give a bigger shit whether you live in one of those clay huts like the Kogi or whether you live in a mansion in Beverly Hills. Does not give a flying fuck. Okay? Doesn't give a flying fuck how much pain and suffering you go through in a life. Okay? Doesn't give a shit. All that matters is you grow. Now, if you understand this principle and you volunteer to grow, and in some measure, if not completely, you forfeit your free will and give it back to the Creator and say, okay, look, man, I get it now. This was never really my life. My ego and my personality are illusions I've created, commenced with a birth certificate, and I'm just supposed to grow in my understanding and knowledge of universal love and being. I'm supposed to hear the music of the spheres in my head when I pray, when I meditate. I'm supposed to be kind and loving to other people. And most importantly, I'm not supposed to complain, and I'm supposed to give my will back to the creative principle, to the Creator. Okay, I get it. And if you can do that, that's the only way you minimize your suffering. But when you do that, you don't get what you want. You don't get to say, all right, I want to forfeit my free will, but I also want a yellow Lamborghini. It doesn't fucking work that way. Okay? People say to me all the time, I hear the stupidest fucking questions from people. Hey, Bruce, if these yogis in the Himalayas can live till they're 500 or 700 years old and can materialize things and levitate, why aren't they billionaires? Because they've transcended the need for money, you fucking moron. They don't give a shit. Okay? Their consciousness has merged more with the Creator than ours. They don't give a flying fuck about money. Okay? Holy spumole. So all this shit we're going through with the Satanists, the children being sacrificed, if you think the Creator gives a shit, you're fucking crazy. Doesn't. Okay? The Creator of this universe is at present, last count I heard, let me just check. How many galaxies are there in this universe? Estimates suggest there are between 100 billion and 2 trillion galaxies in the observable universe. Some studies, like the Hubble Ultra Deep Field, have contributed to the understanding of galaxy populations. How many solar systems are in a typical galaxy? A typical galaxy, like the Milky Way, is estimated to contain tens of billions of solar systems, while there's only one solar system called solar system because our star is called Sol. Countless other stars in our galaxy are believed to have planets orbiting them, forming what are called planetary or star systems. You see? Do you really think the Creator gives a shit that a bunch of whack job bankers are diddling and killing kids? If the horror of what they're doing convinces us to give our will more back to the Creator and ask for help to overcome this horror from our perspective, then the system is working. But the Creator itself couldn't give a flying fuck. Now I know, this is probably popping a lot of balloons for people who have sentimentality associated with their spirituality. There is no sentiment in spirituality. It is what it is. Okay? I thought this was supposed to be a podcast that ameliorated the negativity. I don't know if I'm succeeding in that ambition. Y'all let me know in the comments, okay? Because I just don't know at this point. Creator couldn't give a fuck. Okay? Could not give a flying fuck. We as human beings who contain the Creator with us, it's up to us to give a flying fuck. It's up to us to be moved and to invoke the Creator within us. It's not an object-subject relationship. The Creator and us are one and the same. The drop in the ocean. We are the drop in the ocean. ¿Comprende? ¿Entiende? So how do we make the world better? Well, stop blaming other people for your problems, for one thing. Stop blaming the Jesuits. Stop blaming the rabbis. Stop blaming the bankers. Stop blaming Arab terrorists. Just stop it. Just look at the horror of our existence right now and ask yourself, how do you feel? Because how you feel is the invocation of the Creator that is going to catalyze the change. Not some Creator coming in as an object force. I command thee, like fucking Moses. I'm telling you, the quicker you get away from those Abrahamic systems, the better off you're going to be spiritually. They are so fucking full of shit, it isn't funny. If Christ himself came back to the earth this very moment, materialized in full maturity as a man of 30 or 40 years, and saw what was being done in his name, he'd never stop fucking vomiting. Okay? The whole thing is a hologram. It's a divine hologram. The only way to champion or beat the hologram is to submit to the Creator, because the Creator is the perpetuator of the hologram. Then you can start to hack it. It's not really hacking it. It's just that when you give your will back to the Creator and try to live in tune with the Creator, everything just sort of goes your way. You don't get what you want. You don't get to ask for things anymore. Okay? But when you ask for a life that lives in tune with the Creator, I promise you'll get everything you need. And then some. But do not fall into this prosperity doctrine nonsense. There is no such thing as prosperity doctrine. And people who buy into that horse shit and become multimillionaires on pyramid scams and church groups or this kind of shit, they're just racking up a bunch of bad karma. and they're going to have to pay it off. Okay? They're going to, because the nature of experience down here is 360 degrees. So what you do to that person in this lifetime is going to be done to you in a future lifetime. You see? Every rapist will be raped. You want to understand what karma is? Every murderer will be murdered. Every rapist will be raped. Every torturer will be tortured. Every adulterer will have somebody they love cheat on them and leave them. It's simply you get what you give. And it's not a mystery. And the higher your vibration goes, the quicker your karma comes in. There's nothing, I assure you, absolutely nothing saintly about me. I just never gave up on the practice of meditation, and because I increased my vibration, every time I did something stupid, the karma was so quick, it was like Larry Moore Curly stepping on a rake and I'd get the rake handle right in the face within minutes, or almost immediately. That's how fast my karma came. And that's how I learned. And that's how I learned what I'm telling you now, how this system works. Okay? You can't see it because your vibration is so low, your karma isn't unfolding quickly enough. And this is, when your vibration gets really low, what happens is the time gap between an action and the reaction in your causal body, which is your karmic footprint, is so fucking slow, you can't make connections. You are completely lost until you come into an incarnation where you begin to elevate your vibration. And then when you do that, then you start stepping on rakes and you get hit in the face. And you go, oh shit, I shouldn't do that anymore. But not because you're saintly or better than anyone, because you have figured out the action has consequence. Because you are simultaneously a normal human being and simultaneously in the process of, through the act of silence and contrition to your inner life, meditation, prayer, whatever, you are seeking to surrender your will to the Creator. But you got both things going on at the same time. And when you got both things going on at the same time, you get what I call boomerang karma. And when you get boomerang karma, it means you're in the love path of the Creator. That's why you're getting beat up, because you're doing stupid shit and the Creator's trying to teach you. Just like hell exists because they haven't given up on you and they're trying to redeem you. I had no intention of getting all worked up. I wasn't even going to do a podcast tonight. I don't know how the fuck these things even happen, man. So, we're going through this darkness, okay? And here's a little tip. No matter what happens, no matter how dark it gets, don't forget to laugh, right? You gotta have a little bit of an absurdist in you, you know, like a Douglas Adams, the guy that wrote Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, okay? You gotta be a little bit absurd. And you gotta see it. As your consciousness grows, your sense of humor will change. You will find things funny that nobody else gets because you see it from a completely different perspective. It's a kind of cosmic humor, if you will. Now, circling back to the terrestrial matters right in front of us, the stuff I usually talk about. Spiritual economy, stuff like that, the Kogi, the human sacrifice, the massive depopulation. All of these things can happen because our consciousness is so low that we've allowed them to happen. That's a pretty bitter pill to swallow, isn't it? It means that all of us are in part culpable for what's going on. Because our consciousness is so low, we allowed this low vibration shit to come into our existence. Child sacrifice, I mean, it's always been here, but not on the scale it's at now. Okay? Now, are we going to gain something from going through all of this negativity? Fuck, I hope so. I mean, it would be a bit of a shitstorm to go through all of this and not gain anything, wouldn't it? So I'm going to assume that we're going to gain something. I can tell you with some honesty and some sincerity and some my truth anyways, if not an absolute truth, my truth. Your chances of surviving the next decade are directly linked to your autonomy. You want to know what autonomy is? Let's look that word up because it's a great word. Autonomy definition.
This is the definition of
Oh,
autonomy.
fuck off.
The right or condition of self-government.
All right, so that's the first definition. They say it's a noun. The right or condition of self-government. That's not really what it means. What is this? Oxford Languages again. In Kantian moral philosophy, this is Kant, the philosopher. They're all Germans, these fucking psychotic philosophers. I think philosophy is arsenic for the soul, by the way. In Kantian moral philosophy, the capacity of an agent to act in accordance with objective morality rather than under the influence of desires. That's no. So the first AI answer is the one I like the best. You know, what does autonomy mean in simple terms? Independence or freedom. Independence or freedom as of the will or one's actions, the autonomy of the individual, the condition of being autonomous. Okay? I would say that autonomy means self-reliant. And I mean that's right to the point of growing your own food. Now, that are you going to achieve that in such a limited time? If the shit's going to hit the fan by it's May now, January, February, March, April. We're in the 5th month. We're almost halfway through 2025. I think the shit's going to happen. The hit's going to hit the fan by the end of 2020, somewhere between now and the end of 2025. Is that enough time to get everything completely autonomous? Probably not. Okay? Most people won't quit their job. Most people won't do anything. Okay? But it doesn't take away from the simple truth that the more autonomous you are, the higher your level of survival is going to be. Your probability of survival. If you want to survive. A lot of people are just going to pack it in. Okay? We don't have the heart for living anymore the way second and third world people do. We just don't. I mean, these people I live with, I mean, that crawl over a football field of broken glass on their hands and knees to stay alive another day. The average North American, holy shit. Suicidal tendencies happen in relationship breakups, getting fired from a job. Who gives a fuck? You know how many jobs I've come and gone from in my life? Who gives a fuck? It's just a job. It's not who you are. But our capacity to survive and our will for life now is very weak in the first world. Very, very weak. Okay? I don't know why that is, but it is. It's just very weak. So what's going to happen in 2025? Well, we're going to move much closer to the programmable money, okay? And that means there's going to be no dissent in society anymore. You complain, you do a podcast they don't like, you might get one warning, and then after that, your money doesn't work because the money is programmable. It's not like a piece of paper in your wallet, like where no matter who holds it and gives it to a cashier, they can exchange it for goods and services. The programmable money will be you go up to the cashier with your phone and you go to put your phone over the blinking red light and the message says to the cashier, no funds available. Even though when you just checked it, you had $10,000, the equivalent of $10,000 available to you. No funds available. And there'll be a little message in your banking application that says, check in with your local probate officer about public comments you made on the internet. Okay? Just like the cops are going door to door in the UK now. Okay? Arresting people for Facebook messages and stuff. That's what it's going to be like. So how do you get around that? Well, yeah, you got to get yourself to a point where money is just a luxury. It doesn't really matter for anything. That's the only way, I think. Anyways, they're getting ready to black star this economy. It's going to go black star, which is a mini supernova, which is a mini black hole. Okay? They're getting ready. It's going to if it doesn't start this year, it can't go any later than 2027. Okay? That's enough for tonight. I'm Bruce McDonald and this has been the Talamanca Review.